And we're being recorded. Different sound is now go on here.
I'm gonna dust right out, okay? Not gonna come and take it by like the. Oh, splitting.
They can't see it right now anyway. So I have found as well that I have to put these things over here and here so that the camera actually sees it and ignores it.
What do you mean?
It's very interesting the way the camera and the screen thing works.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it
super
helps not
interesting.
give it all the. Give it like a block.
Yeah, it fills it in because otherwise the desk starts to show up. I found that out the hard way. So, and what you got to do
Well,
is
probably when you film yourself.
it's on right now. So I have to fill in all this stuff over here, and so 5 more minutes. Then this is recorded so that I can get rid of this first part and just wait for anybody to actually show up. And it'll be super, super interesting to run through this with the way the demo is. So hopefully. Let's see if this is. Yep, still running. Okay, cool. One thing I don't like about the way Zoom tends to function is right now I can't tell if the sound is actually being broadcast. It should be, but I don't hear it in my headset. So I'll do a quick sound check. All right, that's working. Yes, 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 testing. Okay, both of those are working. They're meeting us?
No. Cheese.
Oh. I got 3 minutes.
Anything good?
Just drama. With Kevin. Nice.
You got tissue.
Definitely feeling better.
Very good.
Attendees. Promote to panelist. Here we go. Oh, there we go. All right, Edward, can you hear me?
I sure can.
All right, can you hear the music?
I can. Good music.
Right, one hit wonders. So we still got 2 minutes. We have one registered attendee right now.
Okay.
So I think this ended up just being way too short notice. I'd be surprised. We do have somebody for tomorrow, and we do have somebody for today. This guy is a early adopter. All right, hold on, say goodbye to Jess.
Hi, Edward.
Yeah, probably a good idea. No, I'm good. I want that off so I can hear. So I'm going to kick it off at one regardless.
Okay.
So I think you have to stay as an attendee, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as a panelist, in order to
for the chat. Yeah, I think you're right.
yeah. So you don't happen to have any video, like a picture. Do you have a picture of the GoBot?
Yeah.
The GoBot. Maybe you could put that up in your stead.
Yeah.
Although that would be the same. You'd have to remember to take it down for other Zooms that you do, unless you don't mind that it's the bot.
Yeah, I use a different Zoom for Home ASAP, different Zoom account, so that's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
Let me do that now. Do you know if James ran an ad?
No idea.
Okay.
Too many moving parts right now. I can't keep track of it all.
I hear that.
All right. Well, it is 1 o'clock, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off our sound here for the sharing. All right. That should stop that. And we are going to get this webinar started. And let's see if I'm there. We go. So, all right, let's get it started. So our today's agenda, we're going to go over a little bit of housekeeping first. And if I don't hit the mouse too crazy, we'll be okay. I'm going to go over how and why we actually got here. That's pretty relevant for anybody who does decide to watch and pay attention to the industry. And we'll get into the platform. We'll spend the most time doing that. And then we're going to come around to a question and answer session for anybody that's got questions. You can put it in the chat or the Q&A. And then we're going to talk about really briefly how to get that 25% limited lifetime discount. That's actually ending at the end of this month, permanently. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping. So before Edward was joining me, I created this presentation slide. So now we do have, I'm not running this single-handedly. However, we're still going to, well, Edward's going to monitor the chat in the Q&A section. However, we're not going to deal with that until we come back around to the end of the demonstration portion of the webinar. And then we'll get into the questions and answers that you do have. But Edward is here and he is helping me today. So thank you, Edward, for being here. And can you see this, Edward? I'm actually going to ask you. You can see the screen fine? The screen share is good?
Everything looks great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. And we are recording today. So really quickly, how and why did we get here? What is the purpose of wholesale payroll actually being here at all? And so the brief background is that I received my CPA in 1994 and opened up my own firm in 1999 and had that through 2015. During that time, I spent plenty of hours doing tax prep and accounting and bookkeeping work. And then around 2007, after having investigated a few options, I began to offer payroll services out to customers and grew that book of business to the point where it really made sense to split that off into its own business, which was then called, and still is today, True Payroll. And that company has been serving clients since 2013. Now the size of just over 300 customers in 25 different states. And the reason that I really share that is because anybody who wants to know about a payroll platform really ought to know where it came from, and do the folks that are in charge actually, can they connect with you? So what I was using in the very beginning was a platform called PayCycle. If you've been around doing payroll and you know that name, then you've been around for a little while. And in 2009, Intuit bought it, and then in 2012-13 renamed it into what a lot of people recall as being called Intuit Online Payroll, or IOP. Internally, they used to refer to it as IOP 4A. had been on that system basically since 2006, began to offer it in 2007. It was a white labeled product back then. And so then what happened, right? What happened was in May of 2021, Intuit announced to all of those on the IOP platform that they were going to discontinue it. So there was a couple things that we had to make choices on as professionals in the payroll space, whether you're doing bookkeeping with payroll as a side gig or whatever your structure was. Then when they announced this in May, they didn't tell us when they were going to decommission or sunset the platform. They just told us it was going to happen and that our choice was migrate over to the QuickBooks online payroll platform. Well, there's a few problems with that, but in May of last year, it really came down to what in the world do we now do? And by we, I really mean me. What do I do with all these customers, and how do I service them? Do I attempt to, as I put here, solve issues, or do I continue to accept being in what we call the loop? And that means a balanced feedback loop. A balanced feedback loop is essentially the status quo. We can't change what we can't change, so we just have to deal with what exists. That really wasn't sitting well with me. However, like everybody, I had four choices to make. I could continue with that migration process, going from Intuit's online payroll, the former PayCycle platform, into what they were providing. I did not think that that was a very viable option for my book of business for two reasons. One, the revenue model was completely changing. So rather than being on at a wholesale to retail where I could actually mark it up and have control over my clients and my revenue streams, it became a commission-based affiliate model, right? And so anybody that's now on that platform can either have, or you get a combination of 30% and 15%, depending on the particular pieces of it. And then the other thing that is still happening, right? They're competing in the same space, which leads me to the problem of migrating to another platform. So that was option two. Again, so how did we get to where we're at today? Looking across a variety of other platforms between SurePayroll, Gusto, Patriot, Surecom, Paycom rather, SurePayroll, I think I may have said that one, even ADP and Paychex, looking at those various other offerings, could I create a scalable business model that I had been operating under for the last 15 years? And the answer was no, I really couldn't. There wasn't really anything out there that fit what I was looking to do. And to that loop, to that balanced loop, that status quo issue, no matter where I looked, there was a singular problem that continued to persist across all these platforms. And that was very simple. Simply, as a payroll professional, I still did not have the authority, power, and tools at my fingertips to make changes for my customers. So when they're calling me, I'm having to get into some kind of support process where I have to then explain the situation to somebody else. Maybe they have a skill, maybe they don't, maybe they're just customer service type, and they can't actually do it themselves and have to go to back-end support, all these kinds of things. So I couldn't actually make, the music is not supposed to be playing. So, I hit the wrong thing. Thank you for that, Edward. I hit the wrong button to turn that off. So I apologize if that was distracting everybody.
There's some nice ambiance.
Okay. Well, can you go wrong with the outfield and one-hit wonders? So kind of back at it, the whole support structure was very, very limiting in order to actually effectuate servicing customers on a regular basis. So the next option was to actually sell the book of business. So if anybody's out there that was looking at all this and decided, well, let me check ADP, Paychex, and even some of the other ones, Gusto and Patriot, maybe they'll buy that book of business. Ultimately, I decided against that simply because I didn't feel it was morally, ethically right for customers to go through that, what I see as that pain. And after having built all these relationships over 14, 15 years, I just couldn't do it. So it left us with the final option, which is why we're actually here now. So after Intuit had bought the PayCycle platform in 9 and then started to make some significant changes in 12 and 13, I began planning and with the help of others, creating an architectural infrastructure for a new payroll platform. 2021, we were actually able to put that into action. And so after about 9 years, that dream has became a goal, and that goal is now about to become a reality in just another month here. So let's just say we actually dive into the platform. So I'm going to do a new screen share, and we're going to go right over to the actual platform itself. And we're going to do about 20 minutes or so of running through. I'm just going to move that partial screen off there. And we're taking a look right now what a payroll partner interface looks like. This is the current iteration. I'm going to do a quick screenshot of what the future iteration, this is already built. It's just not in the demo environment right now. But as you can see, it's pretty similar, slightly different. We have a couple extra widgets for forms now where we didn't have that. So you can get right to adding employees for your client base. You can run payroll for your client base. You can pay taxes for your client base, and you can get the filed forms and file forms for your client base. We have a traditional to-do list. We have the recently viewed companies to make it quick to access who you need to see, particularly if you've just been working on them. And then we added a couple of widgets down here. This one, I really enjoy the cash flow, because you'll see a feature here shortly. If you decide to put in your revenue model, whether or not actually, technically, I guess you could still do that. I'll get back to that. But you actually get to see where you sit with your revenues and what the actual expense of the platform would be for you. And so we're going to kind of keep tabs on that for you operationally. So that's kind of cool. The next widget, the payment types, whether it's direct deposit or printed checks, that's only relevant for those folks who are going to decide to actually offer paycheck printing. I can tell you in the true payroll world, it's about 1/3 of the revenue. So we're very, very keen on providing paycheck printing. Not everybody's going to want to do that. However, there's a widget that's going to help you see where your client base actually sits. And then we have a upcoming holidays, and then we'll add some more widgets as we go. So back to the former iteration of the PayCycle, or the dashboard for the payroll partner. This is live, right? So it's not pre-scripted here. I'm going to go right over to the branding, because wholesale payroll is, by its very name, a product that is sold to you being a payroll professional or accounting or bookkeeping, tax preparer, somebody who's actually servicing clients. If you're not servicing a client, if you're an employer, you can't get direct access to this. So our service level agreements with our subscribers prevent us from becoming their competitor. And that is a fundamental core principle of what we're doing and one of the reasons why we're vastly different. So white labeling becomes very, very significant. And under our user setups, again, I'll just click that again. I went straight to the branding. And as you can see, here's our menu. I'm going to go ahead and open up. Oh, I had that really, there we go. And so I'm going to pick, let's go with the green visor for now. So as you can see, the logo gets updated. It also gets over here to change this really quick. Let's choose this color, right? And so now we can see how that kind of blends together. We have white coloring there. We can change that if we wanted that to be dark, if we think that's easier to see. And if I like that kind of a darker background, or I can use my eyedropper, go into that green again, and maybe I'm just going to pick a slightly different shade, and then again go to the so that is how we can white label this product. The other component of this white labeling is our URL utilization. So that's payroll service, as I highlighted up there, payrollsvc.com. everything happens within that domain. And so that domain is private, and nobody will know that it is wholesale payroll that's behind the scenes unless you as the payroll partner actually tell them that. So that can be, the changes, it can happen really quickly. So just again, another quick little demonstration. So we'll go to a blue for that, and we'll come down to this one, and we'll choose blue again, but we'll just shade that ever so slightly differently. And again, those color schemes can be whatever you need that to be in order to match. So when your clients access this, and when their employees access this, this is the color scheme that they then see, as well as your logo and your naming convention here. So whether you're a payroll partner or the employer or whatnot. All right, so that's the white labeling. Oh, I'm going to go right over to the billing section. And this is, so I'm going to skip right down to the pricing structure. And this is a new change. So if you've seen this before, we now have the tiered pricing is turned on. And so you create your ranges with the one part that's got to be added here is what's the base fee for that range. We then add, you can add a cost markup to your workers' comp, the multi-state, and then if you're going to actually do check printing, you can put that in here and determine how much you're going to charge for checks. If you're not in a tiered structure, then we basically have either a flat fee or a percentage markup over what we're charging you. And those rates can vary depending on how many clients you decide to put on the platform. For that pricing, let's do a quick Zoom between us, and we'll get into that more specifically. And because we don't sell to employers, we tend not to put the pricing out in the public domain. Then, so that's the revenue model. So what this basically means is we can help facilitate collection of money from your client to you. So think about this almost like merchant processing, where when this is filled out, we can then bill your client based on your revenue model, draw that money out, and then drop that into your bank account. And we'll see that in just a second as well in terms of the banking. And so that is our billing, or our what we've dubbed billing. Okay, so back to the dashboard. Since this is demo, the color changes, I didn't save any of that. I want to take a quick look at companies. So this right here, we're going to go view all companies, and we have 3 different display modals, and that might be the wrong terminology from a techie point. So you have this kind of this list view, which is more, it's a little bit expanded. This list view, which is very much a lot more linear, and then we have a tile view. My preference personally is this one. I don't know why, I just kind of like that one. I can search through companies if I need to find one specific one or whatnot. So I'm just going to go to the first selection. When you see a pop out like this, and that might be the wrong terminology as well from a techie point of view. I'm not a techie, I'm a payroll professional. This is the view that I tend to like, which is this. You can put it into the middle. Whatever you select, it will remember and bring it back to that same selection the next time you're in. You can go with a more, not quite full screen, or you can go full screen. I perhaps particularly like this one because I can still see. Our system allows you to work in multiple spots within the same company and separate companies all at the same time. So you can see I've got a couple tabs open here, which we'll get to. It does not log you out because you've made a change in one. So you can, that flexibility is to me extremely important, particularly if you're taking client calls. In the when you click on a company, on one of your employer clients, first tab is the workers. So that's what we've dubbed the employees and contractors. They're all in this bucket called workers. And you can change that between whether you just want to see contractors, whether you just want to see employees, whether you want to see active or inactive or all, and that would go for both contractors as well. So the status there. And so we're just going to go back to this. We'll look at employees here in a second. The company profile is a very basic overview of the company itself, what bank accounts they may or may not have. what other kind of corporate documents they may be maintaining. Pretty much can keep anything in here that you would like. The important part, I think, for this is looking at the various settings that we have. The profile is the same. This is another area where you can go make changes, locations down here, so you can edit again, and not just another spot where you can edit. Kind of look at that really quick. So we have several different work, or rather location types. So your filing address, your work locations, which you can have multiple of those, your mailing address, which can be different from your filing address, and we do include an accountant or an attorney office should you want to have those, and your headquarters. So these three, or all four, can be vastly different, as you can see in this particular one. We have two different addresses for work locations. So this is keenly important when you have remote workers, or you have a company that splits state lines and has offices in multiple, essentially taxing jurisdictions. And because that's going to drive later what tax obligations you're going to have and how the tax calculations are going to work. All right, bank accounts. We did something a little bit different. And with our bank accounts, first thing we did is you cannot get a routing number wrong. We have this updated every 30 days through our financial institution, directly through the Fed. So you're going to pick, or the employee or employee will enter in the initial numbers of that routing and then pick the bank location that they want to have in their record. They still can get a bank account number wrong. So that's the one you got to be very careful of entering. And for our employer clients, or your employer clients, I should say, they can have up to 4 different bank accounts. One for employee payments, and I've selected them all here just so we can see them. One for contractor payments. So the net check for employees can come out of one account. Contractor payments can come out of yet another one. That fee withdrawal is only if you're going to actually use us for helping facilitate the payment of your fee from your clients into your account. So if you're not using that feature and you're doing your billing and whatnot outside of the system, no worries. You're just not going to use that particular account. And then the fourth one is tax payments. So for those clients, because we don't impound, if your client would like to accrue tax dollars somewhere and set it aside, they can do that, and we will withdraw tax payments out of that account. So it just gives you and your clients more flexibility to control their cash flow and to keep hold of their cash. All right, so that's on company accounts. Hopefully you're liking the navigation. Everything is, to me, because I'm biased, of course, because I'm in this all the time, the layout and where to find things, I think, is fairly straightforward. I would really love to get feedback from, as viewers are watching this, what they think of that. Our early adopters right now have really enjoyed what they've seen. So payment methods. We allow an employer to actually restrict how they want to pay their employees. So they can either do direct deposit only, paper checks only, or a combination of both. And at the moment, there is a direct deposit option selected. The electronic service portion will show up. So they're going to agree that we're allowed to push and pull funds in and out of a bank account. Okay. Pay schedules. Add as many as you want. I don't even know what more to say about that, other than you can set this up. It's pretty powerful in terms of how to create pay schedules, and your frequencies can be, in this case, every 52 weeks to account for those customers that may be annually based with you. And the second way of getting to the same thing is just going by month, every 12 months. If you have somebody who's quarterly, change it to every 3 months. If you happen to like the weekly, go every 12 weeks. Okay, and so some pretty basic features there. Not basic, probably the wrong choice of words. It's very robust, but I would tell you it's fairly simple to use. At least it is, and again, in my view, we'd love to get feedback. So if you have multiple pay schedules, is any one of them your default, so that as you're adding new employees, they'll just automatically be put to that one. Again, you can have as many of these as you need to. It's important in terms of how the payday experience will work as well. So work schedules. we decided to include something that was a little bit more flexible, particularly for salaried employees, depending on the nature of your business, where you're located, you may have different rules for what constitutes full-time. In some states, it's going to be 40. In some states, maybe it's 35, or maybe organizationally, you're in a state that 40 is the number of full-time hours that they say. However, you may, your client may define it as 35. So this is where you get the chance to actually determine for a salaried employee, because that's going to go to their calculations whenever you have to make edits and changes as well. So this becomes an important extra feature that I can't tell you that I've seen in another platform. Again, this was to accommodate flexibility in the way HR policies actually may work based on organizations. Earning codes, this is how we get everybody paid. You can have as many of these as you want. Where this does have a direct impact, for every earning code that you create in an employer's account, it will show up in the payday experience. So there'll be a separate column for every permutation of these earning codes that you generate. We have a variety of different kinds of earning codes, categories, and I believe that we have accounted for in some fashion or another about every permutation of earnings that you could dream up, from the non-hourlies to the per diems, what we call hourly customs, general hourly. We've included S Corp owner, so that's the 2% in here as well. PTO exists here, and there is we'll see the PTO policy engine in a second, from reimbursements. And basically, you just name this whatever you want. And where workers' comp codes fit for a particular earning code, I would encourage the employer to put that in. That will impact, particularly in states where you can split workers' comp premiums into the category of work that they're doing. That becomes critically important. All right, so we could spend probably an hour just on earning codes. It's a pretty robust engine. Time off policies, this is another one we do have, and at the very end, I'll give you the link to our YouTube channel. We have a variety of videos out on how these things can be used, but in terms of the time off policy, we essentially offer 3. We don't have a vacation engine separate from our sick engine versus what paid time off. Everything is considered paid time off except for family leave and bereavement, because they can have special handling. So when it comes to time off other than family leave and bereavement, you're just going to use paid time off, and then you're going to name it whatever you want. So if it's a sick policy or a vacation policy, or you use a straight PTO type policy, this is an extremely robust engine. And so depending on how you select, various things will open up and expand so that you can add more information and create a deeper type of policy. If you have specific questions on PTO, we probably ought to schedule a separate demo specifically for you so that we can get your answers to any questions that you may have. All right, we're going to move on past our time off policy. Deductions and garnishments. This is another really interesting area. There are so many platforms that limit you to 2, 3, particularly when it comes to child supports. In our case, you can have as many of these as necessary. And then depending on the order of the entry of the garnishment will dictate which one's coming first. So number 1's going to come first in a garnishment. As soon as it sees a garnishment, that's what's coming out first, and so forth and so on. Whether it's a child support, consumer debt, so you get something from a court order, IRS levy, or other actual tax levy, and then other types of garnishments, whatever those might be. And again, you just put as many in there as you need. And we created a kind of over under. And if you have a situation where you have a minimum amount or a percentage, then it will account for those, whether it's got to be greater or lower than one or the other of those flat amounts or percentage. Okay, so deductions, gosh, I don't think there's anything we don't have accounted for in these deductions and garnishments. So contributions are going to refer to things like your 401k, your health insurance, things that the company is actually contributing in for the employee. All right. So we've got that taken care of. Holiday schedule. So if you want to actually predetermine what holidays you're going to pay your employees, just set them up, and then it'll automatically take care of that for you. Starting check number, it's going to be for check printing. Company tax settings right now, I think they're working on that. Yep. So we're not going to be able to see, but there's automation settings in here for that. And we can talk about that in just a quick second. We're going to look at the QuickBooks export. Now this is gone through a change that's not been pushed up yet because our developer is working on this as we speak. So I'm just going to click on the online. Yep. All right. So that one's not working to see. So these areas are going to change. Everything's becoming, we're pulling in directly when it's QuickBooks Online. Maybe we'll go over to a desktop version. Let's switch that over. Yeah. So they're working on that particular area right now. I knew that was going to be the case. It may come up later in the week. There is another video out there on how this is going to function. We are going to launch with classes, so you are able to do splits in classes. The mapping here is extremely robust. I would encourage you to watch the video, particularly on the mapping. Now we don't launch till next month, so it's really towards the end of next month. So there's still there are some pieces that are still in flux as they're wrapping up, particularly when they get the back end done, and we have got to then connect that to the UX, which is what we're seeing here. The mapping capability is such that we have a first level, which is for kind of this overall umbrella, and you can put in you want all your wages to go to a wage expense account. Then we have it at the earning code level, so that you can then, if you have a salary line item that you want to go somewhere other than that general wage expense, you have officer salary, let's say, and that's in a different section in your P&L. Go ahead and map that earning code specific to that GL account. Then we have a third, more granular level, which really can be represented in the in this section for the work, whether they be your contractors or your employees. As opposed to saying wage and employer expenses, we've consolidated this so that each employee will have a line item for mapping each of the specific items of their paycheck. So whether it's an earning code, a deduction, a contribution, or a tax, those things can then be individually mapped. So the way the export will then work, it's going to look from the bottom up. Is there something specific for that employee? No. Is there something specific for the earning code? No. So then it goes to that company level and says, all right, all wages are going to go to this particular mapping. So that's how our engine is going to function in terms of QuickBooks exporting. Now you can see that we're supporting both Windows, Mac in an IIF file, and then it's online. It's a direct connection. So your employers will have to add their username and passcode, which we then pass through, and it will pull their chart of accounts specifically in. And when that chart of accounts is pulled in, we do not have restrictions upon what account may be selected. So if somebody accidentally selects a bank account for an employee expense, it will post to that. We do not prevent that from happening. That basically becomes your job along with your employer client to manage that. However, when that list does come through, you're going to see it broken down into assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expense. So you will be able to see relatively simply what account you're pulling that in from the chart of accounts altogether. All right, cool. So that's our export settings. Electronic services, just our electronic services. There is the automatic tax payment. So I apologize, it's actually down here. It's been separated. And so that can be either turned on or off. So let's talk about that for a quick second. We're doing everything we can to automate as much of this as possible for the purpose of your ability to scale your business. If you don't grow, we don't grow. Our success is absolutely 100% tied to your success. To that end, nobody wants to sit around and click buttons to make tax payments happen. Nobody wants to sit around and click buttons to make tax filings happen. If you so choose to work with your client on that, and they want everything automated because that's what you're doing, then you select the automation on. Now, What's not in the UI yet is the options that you have. So when it comes to tax payments, selecting the option for when a when a payroll is approved, we'll see that in a second. When pay date is, so concurrent with pay date. The third option would be the last date possible before penalties and interest. The fourth option is other, and that other can be any date that you choose from today forward. If you go past that last date possible, you will get a warning that says you're going to void the guarantee. What guarantee? Wholesale Payroll provides you as our subscriber, which you can then pass down to your employer clients, a guarantee for accuracy in our calculations and accuracy in our timeliness of filing. If it's not set for automatic, then that guarantee does not exist. If it's set for automatic and then an other date is selected that goes beyond the due date, that also voids that warranty. So it's valid as long as it's manually filed ahead of time. It's valid as long as it's on an automatic setting, and that goes for payments as well. So payments for filings. So filings is 3 options: first available, and what that means is when a form has been approved by the regulatory body, whether it's the IRS, SSA, or a state or local agency, first available date that form may be e-filed, off it goes. Last date possible. So at the very last filing day, and accounting for weekends and holidays, that'll go out then. Last option, of course, is other. So you pick a date that's beyond its due date. Again, you're going to void out our timeliness guarantee. All right. That is workers' comp. So this is an area that's getting going to expand a little bit as well. And this specifically for those of you who choose to want to support particularly workers' comp audits, right? We know if you're doing a workers' comp audit, you got to have 4 quarters, maybe even 5 quarters of filings. You got to run your report, and that's all got to get submitted. It's all date driven, right? So put in the policy period. That's what's coming yet. That should be a November iteration on this particular screen, should be, not guaranteeing exactly when it's going to get deployed. It will not be for launch. However, we are including this so that you can support your clients in terms of getting them all their documentation. So as long as they have their policy period in here, when that policy period comes up, you can click a button and have all that documentation ready to go and send it off to the auditor or the firm, whoever's doing that particular workers' comp audit for that period. The other thing that's going to help you do from a revenue generation standpoint is if they're not with the pay-as-you-go, because we are connected with AP Intego, which is now Next Insurance for pay-as-you-go. You can offer that to your clients. And then if you choose to mark it up, you can mark that up and make a little bit of extra dollars on processing. It's the connection fee between Wholesale Payroll and AP Intego, transmits the day of payroll, and then they'll take out that premium. Most of you are probably quite familiar with the pay-as-you-go. We are in negotiations with AmTrust to offer pay-as-you-owe. It's their version of the Next Insurance offering. Okay, so that's a lot on the companies. And I'm going to go over to the workers here really quick. I'm just going to pick on one. And we have here, I'm going to go ahead and expand that just a little bit so it may be a little bit easier to see. And in here, you can add, modify, do what you need to do in terms of supporting your clients, or your clients can get in here and do all this themselves. Let's look at a worker's profile. No, I'm sorry. We want to go to engagement details. And specifically, we do have an onboarding process where they can fill out their W-4 information and warehouse that here. The thing I wanted to note for this demo is in the bank accounts. Unlike other platforms, you may choose, or the employee may choose, as many splits as they want. So if they have 10 bank accounts, they can do that. And again, the routing numbers are in here. Put in the bank account. They can split between fixed amounts and fixed amounts, or percentage amounts or fixed amounts. Add another account let's see, we'll go with Bank of the Ozarks here. Another account, go back to percentage. So the first amount they want $50 to go over to some kind of special fund, whatever that is. And then they want 75% of the remaining amount sent to their regular checking account that they share. I got something going off here, and I am not sure what that is. So we're going to let that noise go. So sorry about that. And then if they go back to a fixed amount, so they can, again, switching back and forth, it will work in the order in which the bank accounts are put in. So if you need to move them around, then you can move that up or down, and it will change the order. So in this case now, we would have $50 going one place, call it $25 going to another one, and then 75% or the last amount going to that final processing order. So this would receive the net amount of whatever's left, even though it says 75. It's also going to be the final amount if there's nothing below it. So as many splits as they want, no additional charge. All right, cool. Not a whole lot more. I think employees are pretty straightforward. Contractors are pretty straightforward you can upload so you can warehouse HR documents in here if you so choose. All right, and you can put them on whatever pay schedule they may have, as many pay schedules as they need too, so that they don't have to have just one. In this case, we don't have any pay schedule set up, so we're not actually seeing anything here. All right, so let's just say everybody's in, you've got all these customers, you've got your employees in, you need to run a payday. We're going to click on payday. We're going to select a company. It's lunchtime here, so let's talk about pizza. Sounds good. And we're going to select our pay period. Cool. And now what we're looking at in our revised and updated payday experience, each column represents some type of earning code or contribution deduction type. Whatever you've set up for this particular company is going to show up. And only the box that pertains to that, for only the earning code that pertains to that particular employee, is actually going to be able to for entry, right? So I can't actually get to, for Ethan here, he doesn't have any overtime, so I can't. He's just got regular hours, and that's the naming convention of that particular earning code. So you could call that hourly 1, hourly 2, whatever you and the client want that to be. And so this person is Michael's on salary, so forth and so on. So it's can pre-populate the salaried hours, and salaried employees can be automated for payment, so you don't even have to see them if they're not. I know there's a filter that is, let's see, auto-filled, right? So we can hide the auto-filled workers, so that way you're not having to worry about it. Salaried employees, right? So we filter them out, and that way you don't have to worry. They'll be there when you go to do the approval. So I know they're also working. I'm going to check this really quick to see if this is going to pull, because I know they're working on, okay. You get to the approval screen where you get a chance to see it. And I'm going to just check to see if this, okay. I knew that was having in our demo environment. I'm going to go back to here. So I'm going to go right to when you click on a check from that approval, this is what it'll end up looking like. And in here, anything that's in blue is editable at any time. When I talked about one of the things that we needed to solve for as professionals, we need to be able to get into our clients, whether it's while in flight, whether it's been before approval, whether it's after approval, whether it's after a filing has occurred. And there's a change that needs to happen, because clients have the habit of letting us know well after the fact, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that, or this was entered wrong, or that was entered wrong. You need to be able to go in and make those changes. We enable you, we empower you to do that. Let that sink in for just a second. There is nobody you have to call. There's nobody you have to chat. If your customer forgets their health insurance, their S Corp 2% health insurance, and it's now February or March, go ahead in here and make that change. Either add another check or go into that last check of theirs for the previous year and add that in. Let it recalc. Where there is a form that can then be amended, We will help create that where that form is eligible to be e-filed. We will e-file that. Let that sink in. Okay. When you have a direct deposit and there is, like we see here, I do that all the time, I point to the screen so you can see it. So down here where we have the split in the direct deposit, where there is additional monies that need to go to the employee or they've been overpaid and monies need to come back, this area of their check will expand. If you edit that check, I should say, it will create an adjustment in the current batch processing of payroll so that the transaction is happening now, but it can be reflected upon a check that's in, basically that's in history. One decision that has come out in the last week or so is in the importing of clients from a previous system. Currently today, when we launch, we will be supporting migration from QuickBooks products. Other products will come along in the next weeks to months ahead. Our client council is going to help determine which ones of those we're going to prioritize first. In the meantime, we do have the QuickBooks, particularly QuickBooks Online Payroll, where right now this says unapproved. Whether it's unapproved or approved, that essentially tells you that that check was processed in our system. If it's coming from an outside system, it's going to say imported right here. Doesn't mean you can't change it. What it does mean is we're taking some assumptions based on the prior data in order to help facilitate the tax calculations. And there could be times where we need your help in making sure that the tax calculation of an imported check from a previous system is actually, we've got all the correct parameters for a historical check edit. Tax rates can change, those types of things. In a migration, so what we did decide is we're running every check of the current year. So whether you migrate at the end of a quarter or in December, or in the beginning of the year, every check of that calendar period and will run through our processing engine. So we're going to import that. We'll scrape it out of QuickBooks. We'll put it through our calculations, and we're going to treat that as a check that was processed by our system. There's several reasons we're doing that. One is to ensure our accuracy when you have to do an edit of that particular year. And we're currently going through whether or not, so if you decide to come in January or February, and how much history are you wanting to bring forward? We can go back in QuickBooks as far as 2001, pulling that data as long as it exists in your client's database within QuickBooks. In the event that we are only going back a year or two, you may decide that you want to run all of those just in case you have to make some changes in those prior periods. Just checking my time. I want to make sure I cover. So what we're looking at here is, all right, I'm going to go back over here. So I'm going to click on Jared again. And where I went is I was looking at paycheck histories. So well, that worked. So just by clicking in, I can see that's this particular screen. When it's you as the payroll partner, you can then edit that check. When it's the worker, which is now, this is a workers portal, looks a lot the same, right? So I'm kind of switching between these two. These are the options that a employee or a contractor would have. We would have to change. All right, so let's see. Garrett may not have in his particular profile here, we may not have any information. So we don't have any paychecks for this particular person, but the listing of paychecks shows up here. In this particular case, you can see Alpha only allows direct deposit. ACH is not authorized because we don't have any bank accounts. So the employee can go in here and modify their bank accounts. They can modify their mailing and primary addresses. They can adjust their tax withholdings, and they can get a list of their W-2s and print them out at their convenience. So that is what it looks like for an employee. And for a dashboard for one of your clients. It's not going to look like this dashboard. I'm going to close this back out. All right, so this is the current iteration of a payroll partner's dashboard. This is where it's headed to, right? A little bit more detailed. And for a retailer or your employer clients, they're going to have a couple different widgets in the front. They have their own to-do, their recently viewed employees. More importantly, these kind of things up top, which is, I think is very, very cool, going to let them know what their cash requirements are for their upcoming payrolls. And let's see, so there is another report which will tell them the spikes or the changes between, in fact, was that, oh, no, it's right here. So we put it in here. So this payroll, $752 greater than the previous payroll. So that way they can actually see did something get entered wrong? And if this said $43,000 more, well, obviously there might be a problem with that unless they knew they were doing bonuses. So just some visual cues. And we put some reminders up here. Hey, payroll's due today. You want to get that out the door and have everybody paid on time. 2-day lead times on direct deposits. That's what we're starting out everybody with, 2-day lead times. There are some potential options for same and next day. That's going to be on a case-by-case basis at this point. Okay, we looked at that. We were looking at that. Okay, looking at the time, I do want to end this part. I'm going to do, let's see, let me do a different screen share. Do I have that up? Oh, no, I'm sorry, I don't need to do that. It's right here. So if you'd like to see some of our videos on our features and functions, go do a search in YouTube for Dataset Go Team. Our URL is kind of wonky still. Then that'll bring you to here. Click on the playlists. And the one that you want to take a look at is the features and functions. And I'm going to scroll that back because that's going to autoplay, view that full list. And you can see a little bit more about our white labeling, the way the billing function works, how our deductions and contributions. And as you scroll down, this is a pretty impressive one. The other one I think you should definitely take a look at is, here is a sample of what our reporting looks like and what Kevin did. I can't do justice to this enough. It is not something that I can show you in the demo today. However, the video will clearly show you how this functions within our platform, and these different widgets can be moved around so that this is the summary is something that's more important to you, and this was a video Kevin did. These are all filterable and movable to make this report what you want it to be. It's very, very powerful, very, very cool. And the visualization techniques that Kevin put into this are very, very cool for your clients to use, and for you if you're helping them with their beyond just doing books and payroll. If you're actually helping doing some consulting and financial planning, this report style and function and power can be extremely beneficial for you. And that's where we have the full length 12-minute, and then we have a shorter version, which is about 5 minutes long right here. So taking kind of all the guts out of this video, but I highly encourage you to watch all of those. All right, that is it for me for today. And I'm going to go back to our other screen share. And I don't think we have any questions at the moment. So it is a Q&A timeframe. I went much longer than 20 minutes on that, so I do apologize. Today's the first one, though you're experiencing this live. You can use the chat and or the Q&A if you do have a question. And if not, we can go ahead and end this session. Except I'm going to go here for our lifetime discount. This is, you had to be present in order to actually receive this. And we decided to extend this. And so our early adopters that have already received this 25% discount will actually get credit for this, because it's because of them that we're able to extend this. And while that's one singular code, our adopters get credit for referring you over to us. Because if we're not, what's that expression? A rising tide raises all ships. So that's our purpose. So the sign up page right now says 10% because that's the public offer. If somebody finds us, goes there now, they can get a 10% lifetime discount on our basic monthly fees of the per employer and per employee cost. if you use the WPSNH-FJ8ZR code, you can scan the QR code there. You can put that URL right in. That will get you to the code, which will get you to the sign up page. And you can then apply that at the bottom when you're putting in your deposit. A deposit is required. That deposit does go as a prepayment towards future subscriptions. You're not just paying for nothing. So you do get to use all of it. All right. That is actually it. I will stop the share. And Edward, do we have any questions at the moment? Are you still with me? There is.
Can you hear me?
I can. Well, I could. There you are.
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, no questions so far.
Okay, cool. Well, I tell you what, we'll go ahead and end 6 minutes early if there are no questions. And if you'd like to schedule up a demo, you can go to the wholesalepayroll.com website and schedule that up one-on-one with me, and be happy to answer any very specific questions that you may have for real specific scenarios of your employer clients. All right. So Edward, what do you think?
Great job.
You're just sucking up.
Maybe a little. Oh, excellent.
That's
It was
awesome.
really great to sit there.
I'll take it. I'll take it where I can get it.
That's right. Yeah, no, it was super beneficial for me too. I saw some things that I hadn't seen before, so that was awesome.
Yeah, there's some new updates that were in that in those screens, and I suspect even in the course of this week we might see a couple new things pop out. Maybe not, but never know. Developing is continuing to go. These guys are working at breakneck speed to get us launched next month.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward. Tomorrow, I think, is at 2. Is that right?
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, tomorrow is from 2 to 3, and then Wednesday is going to be from 3 to 4. Thursday will be 4 to 5, and then back to Friday we're at noon to 1 o'clock. So the same presentation every day this week, and then on the 30th, which is Friday, all lifetime discounts come to a close. So if you didn't get it, you're not going to be able to. There will be no extensions beyond the 30th. Yep, this is it. Yep. I was thinking about it, like this is our Shark Week.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So this is Lifetime Week. That's what I've now called it. This is Lifetime Week. Either it's now or never.
Yeah, absolutely. All good things must come to an end, but the savings don't have to.
That's a good catchphrase right there. All righty. Well, thanks, Edward. Thanks for helping me out. And
absolutely.
If there are, I don't see any questions, right? Nope, I sure don't. No. All right, cool. Then everybody have a great day. And again, reach out if you'd like any more specific questions answered.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, Al.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Talk to you soon.